All right. Welcome, everybody. Good evening. This evening's Judicial Candidate Forum is going to be a great conversation for you to learn more information about our candidates. As you all know, voters play a critical role in deciding who should be our judges. Accurate and meaningful information must be available to voters so that we can help assist them in making informed choices about judicial candidates during election season. It's important for voters to know how the role of a judge differs from the role of a legislator or somebody occupying an executive office. Voters also need to know whether a candidate has the essential qualities to be a good judge. Some of those qualities include having integrity, having knowledge of the law, being intelligent, and having common sense. We want these judges also to be free from bias and to apply the law fairly, have the ability to make decisions in a timely manner, and have the personal skills to preside over a courtroom with dignity and courtesy to all participants. We're excited to welcome these candidates and get their views of a variety of topics. And so first, let me explain the format. This is a forum and not a debate. So candidates will not necessarily be engaging one another, but answering questions that have been developed by our partners. Each candidate will have 1 minute to introduce themselves, and then we're going to dive into the questions. We will also, when we get into the questions, each candidate will have 1 minute to respond, and we'll conclude with a 1 minute kind of closing statement for the candidates participating in tonight's dialogue. First, I want to thank all of the organizations that have come together to make this forum possible. Those include the Justice Alliance, Gardeer Initiative, Louisiana Organization of Refugees and Immigrants, Preach, Pumps to the Polls, Justice and Accountability Center of Louisiana, the Committee to Support Healthcare and Equity, Equity Baton Rouge, Immigrants' Rights Coalition, East Baton Rouge Parish Prison Reform Coalition, Bella La Femme, First Housing Alliance, Louisiana Housing, Children Empowered by Caregivers of Louisiana Incorporated, and Youth Oasis. All of these organizations are dedicated to both voter engagement, education, and participation. This afternoon's forum will highlight 3 candidates for the 19th JDC position on the November 8th ballot in East Baton Rouge Parish. For those needing information on the upcoming election, here are some important dates. And a really helpful resource is to simply go to govote.com. That is GEAUXVOTE.com. The important dates: early voting from October 25th until November 1st, excluding Sunday. The actual election day is November 8th. All the candidates that had filed for these positions were invited to participate in tonight's dialogue. And so we are grateful for the 3 candidates that made time in their busy schedules, so especially during homecoming weekend for both LSU and Southern. So let's get started and let's introduce our candidates. And so I'm going to invite our candidates for the 19th JDC, Judge Deli Adebamiji, Adam Quintua, and Gail Ray. I do apologize if I messed up on the pronunciation of names. Say it in your introduction, and I'll try to make sure I pronounce it correctly. So we're going to start with Judge, is it Dele?
That's correct.
So you have 2 minutes. Please introduce yourself to the participants in tonight's forum.
Good evening, all. My name is Dele Adebamiji, and I've been practicing law in East Baton Rouge in excess of 30 years. And in my practice of law, I've had the opportunity to practice in family court, bankruptcy court, federal court, state court, and all local courts. I've practiced in civil courts also, and I've done a lot of criminal cases. And I went to school at Southern University. My bachelor's degree is from Southern University in mass communication and broadcasting. My master's degree is from Southern University in mass communication also. And my Juris Doctorate is from Southern University. And I'm a father of 4 girls and 1 boy. The boy deceased in 2015. So I have wonderful four girls who graduated from Southern University, LSU, Louisiana Tech, and the last one is at LSU. During this period, all these children, they've done good, and I praise God for doing that. I'm a man of faith. My faith is what drives me most. If you take my faith away from me, I will be nobody. So everything I do it with my faith wrapped around it. Like I said, I believe in traditional marriage. I'm a pro-life, and I like to keep the law. And when I say keep the law, that means your Second Amendment right is very sacrament to me, and I will protect it. And also, in my practice of law, I've met many kind of people that allows me to know that when you come into criminal cases, one glove does not fit all. So when you fashion in a judgment, or when you fashion in a kind of retribution in criminal cases, you have to phantom the kind of cases, and the non-violent offenders, I think they deserve a second chance. But if you are a violent offender, I think we should lock those ones up. We shouldn't have much mercy for any violent offenders. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dele. And I now invite Mr. Adam Quintua. Please correct me on the last name. You have 2 minutes to introduce yourself.
Sure. Good evening, and thank you to the organizers and to the organizations that put this together. I appreciate this opportunity. My name is Adam Quintua, number 61 on the ballot, and I'm running for District Court Judge Division G. I'm running on the platform of accountability, commitment, and community. I've been a prosecutor with the DA's office since 2014, and I've been a youth football coach and mentor with the Guardian Youth Alliance and the Guardian Initiative since 2011. A big part of why I'm running. As a coach, you realize that you can't set expectations for a player without giving them the tools, the resources, the education that they need in order to get to where you want them to be. And I treat the court system the same way. I look at it from first accountability. I have to be able to hold people accountable, especially when it's necessary to protect the community. However, you learn that accountability looks different for different situations. And so it's looking at the different court systems, the different court structures in order to try to help people leave the system in a better position than they were when they came in. The second piece is commitment. That's my commitment to organization, efficiency, transparency, integrity, and impartiality, making sure that it's a fair process and making sure that it's a streamlined process as much as possible. And the last piece being community, working with the community in order to address the community issues that we see in the court system every day. So that's working with the nonprofits, churches, and anyone else that's willing to speak to the issues that we see. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Adam. Next up for introduction, Ms. Gail Ray. You have 2 minutes. And Ms. Gail, you're on mute. If you could take yourself off mute, we'd love to hear what you got to say.
Good evening. I'm Gail Horn Ray, and I am running for the Judicial District, Division G. I have 44 years of experience in practicing in East Baton Rouge Parish. I have practiced civil, criminal, family law, successions, federal court, state court, city court. Have been counsel of record for the school desegregation case. I've taught at Southern University Law School. I've always been active in the community. I'm a member of Allen Chapel AME Church. I'm a Silver Life member of the NAACP. I have volunteered with the Council on Aging, and I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I presently serve as the president of the Southern University Six-Man Club, where we assist student athletes. And I feel that I will be fair and impartial. I have the temperament for a judge. I'm not a politician. I have dedicated my career to public service, and I believe that I am the most qualified for this position.
Thanks, Ms. Gail. We're going to proceed into what we kind of characterize as rapid response questions for all candidates. And these are going to be yes or no questions. And so the first question that we have is for Mr. Dele, and it's actually going to be for all three of you to answer. So I'll go Mr. Dele, Mr. Adam, and then Ms. Gail. So Mr. Dele, will you commit to completing your term if you are elected? And Mr. Dele, could you take yourself off mute? Okay, you're unmuted now. So just the question is, yes or no, will you commit to completing your term if you are elected? I'm sorry, maybe my audio is off. Mr. Adam, I'm going to come to you.
Yes.
Will you commit to completing your term if elected?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Gale, will you commit to completing your term if you are elected?
Yes.
And Mr. Daly, I'm going to come back to you. It might have just been on my end, but I couldn't hear your response. Okay, let me check with our tech person to see if maybe it's just the audio on my end. But I'm going to proceed to the second question, and we'll start with let's start with Mr. Adam. I could hear his response fine, as well as Ms. Gale. Mr. Adam, will you commit to removing your campaign signage within 30 days of the election?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Gale, same question. Will you commit to removing your campaign signage within 30 days of the election?
Yes.
And Mr. Dele, coming back to you, will you commit to remove your campaign signage within 30 days of the election? Seems Mr. Dele may not be able to hear us. Mr. Dele, I'm going to put the question in the chat. Okay. Hopefully we can figure out Mr. Dele's audio. I'm going to proceed to the next question, and if Mr. Dele responds in the chat box, I'll read out his answer for everybody. So Mr. Adam, I'm going to come back to you. I'm sorry, I'll start with Ms. Gale this time. Ms. Gale, thinking back, could you share with us at what age did you first start to vote?
At age 18.
At age 18, thank you. Mr. Adam, same question. At what age did you start to vote?
18.
Thank you. And it looks like Mr. Dele has hopped out for a second. When Mr. Dele comes back, I will ask him the questions that he missed so that our participants can hear his response as well. But we're going to proceed. We think about sometimes we have some free time on our hands, although it's not always the case. But Ms. Gale, could you share with us what is one of your favorite non-lawyer books that you like to read?
Let's see. Non-lawyer books. I like all kind of sports books. So I read about the basketball and the Saints and anything that has to do with sports. If it's non-legal, that's what I like to read.
Thank you. Mr. Adam, can you name your favorite non-law book?
Big on, I don't know if this counts as non-law, but big on civil rights stuff. So right now it's Gospel of Freedom.
Thank you very much. Next question, we'll stay with you, Mr. Adam. East Baton Rouge Parish is increasingly more diverse, and this includes individuals with language and disability challenges. Are there any other languages that you speak besides English, including sign language, if that's one of them?
I took Spanish classes coming up, so I know a little bit of Spanish, enough to navigate a conversation. Wouldn't say I'm fluent in it, but English and Spanish would be my two.
Thank you. Ms. Gale, same question. Given the diversity of East Baton Rouge Parish and the challenges that some folks might have with language or disability challenges. Do you speak any other language besides English?
I do not fluently speak any other language besides English. I have taken foreign language, French, as a matter of fact, but I would not consider myself to be fluent in it.
Thank you. We will now transition to our position-specific questions. And candidates, you will have 1 minute. Well, actually, give me 1 second. Mr. Dele has rejoined us. Mr. Dele, can you give us a thumbs up if you can hear me? Okay. So we're going to proceed to some position-specific questions, and we have 1 minute for your responses. So Ms. Gale, we'll start with you. Can you share with us why you're running for this position?
I'm running for the position because I feel that I can be fair and impartial. The position came open suddenly with the death of the last person to hold the position, and I decided that it was time that I tried to move my service to the community to another level. So I'm running to try to be fair and impartial and bring 44 years of experience to the bench.
Thank you, Ms. Gale. Mr. Adam, same question. Why are you running for this position?
My big goal is I want to be a bridge from what I see in the court system to what I see in the community. Through my work with the District Attorney's Office, as well as my position as the Southern Regional Director of the National Black Prosecutors Association, and then carrying that over to the coaching work, you start to see the disconnect between the issues that are coming up in court and what people are saying in the community. And so my goal is to try to be a bridge between those two, be able to communicate between the two, and try to create a culture in the courtroom where a person is better leaving than they were coming in. And that means going to the root of whatever situation they were dealing with versus just dealing with the surface issues that happen to make it in the court. So it's to be a bridge from the court system back to the community.
Thank you. Hi, Mr. Dele, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. We're going to pepper you with a few questions just to kind of get you caught up with Ms. Gale and Mr. Adam. So the first question I have for you is, will you commit to removing all of your campaign signs within 30 days of the election?
Absolutely.
Thank you. At what age did you first vote?
When I got into America in 1990.
And how old were you in 1990?
You want me to reveal how old I am?
I'm just sticking to the question. The question is the age.
Yeah, I was 35.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you name your favorite non-law book?
My favorite?
Non-legal book. A book that's
my favorite non-legal book is the Bible.
Thank you. East Baton Rouge is increasingly more diverse, and this includes individuals with language and disability challenges. Do you speak any other language other than English, including sign language, if that's one of them?
Yes, I speak my native language, which is Yoruba.
Okay. And we are now, you're all caught up, Mr. Dele. We are now, I'm sorry, the one last question for you, Mr. Dele. Why are you running for this position?
I'm running for this position because I believe that I have the temperament to be a judge. I have the knowledge. I have the understanding, having worked in legal aid and meeting various set of people, and I have the know-how, and I've been in the community for quite a long time. I coach soccer for quite a while, and I've done talking to schools. I was a president of United Nigerian Organization that allowed me to visit elementary schools and talk to them. I represent children in juvenile court just to show them that there's a better way to life than what they're saying. So I believe all this experience and the fact that I'm a father who raised 4 successful girls, that I have the qualification to be a good judge.
Thank you, Mr. Dele. I'm going to ask all 3 of you about bar associations that you are a part of, But first, allow me to define a bar association for our participants listening in. So a bar association, it's also known as a legal association, is essentially a group of attorneys. And it can be local, it can be national, or it can be international. But it is organized primarily to deal with issues affecting the legal profession. In general, bar associations are concerned with furthering the best interest of the lawyers. So I'll start with you, Mr. Dele. What bar associations are you a member of?
Well, I'm a member of the Louisiana Bar Association, the Federal Bar Association. Those are the two associations I'm allied with right now.
Thank you. Ms. Gail, what bar associations are you a part of?
I'm a member of the Louisiana State Bar Association, the Baton Rouge Bar Association, the Louis A. Martinet Society Bar Association.
Thank you. And for folks listening in, the Louis A. Martinet Society is traditionally referenced as one of the local Black bar associations. It's an affiliate chapter of the National Bar Associations. Mr. Adam, what bar associations are you a part of?
The Louisiana Bar Association, the Baton Rouge Bar Association, the American Bar Association, American Prosecutors Association, National Black Prosecutors Association, and Louis A. Martinet Society.
Thank you. Mr. Adam, we will stick with you for this next question. What community organizations do you donate your time, talent, or treasure to, and why? I know you mentioned that you're involved with youth coaching, so feel free to touch a little bit about that. If there are other organizations that you're involved with, please share those as well.
Sure. So I'd say the bulk of my time went to the Guardian Initiative and the Guardian Youth Alliance. It's kind of a second full-time job once you get rolling with the kids, but been there since 2011. I'm a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. I'm also on call for certain organizations whenever they need speakers. So I've worked with the Youth Peace Olympics ran by Miss Alma Stewart. I've worked with the Fathers on a Mission organization with LeVar Robinson, and really just anywhere that I can help. That's where my goal is.
Thank you. Ms. Gail, what community organizations do you donate your time, talent, or treasure to, and why?
Okay, as I had previously stated, I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and we do a lot of public service. I've served as president of the 6-man club for Southern University. I'm a member of Southern University Alumni Home Chapter. I work with the NAACP. I've been a volunteer with the Council on Aging. And I have I'm a member of Allen Chapel AME Church. So I donate my time, talent, and treasures to all of those organizations. And there have been a number in the community, in the Eden Park community, that whenever they have a need, I always try to accommodate and work with them.
Thank you, Ms. Gail. Mr. Dele, what community organizations do you donate your time, talent, or treasure to, and why?
Well, I've donated my time to ACF, which is African Christian Fellowship. In every capacity they need me, talking to the kids or participating in activities. I'm also a member of the Egbe Omo Yoruba of Baton Rouge. And the Egbe Omo Yoruba of Baton Rouge always work with the Habitat for Humanity, which we always go out there and help them with construction of homes. I'm also a member of the United Nigerian Organization, which also donate most of their time and activity to the community in helping the community out. I also coach soccer with the Baton Rouge Soccer Association because I like to give back to kids. Also, I do other organizations as they needed me, like LORI, which is the immigrant group. Whenever anyone needs any immigration counseling, I donate my time to immigrants who need immigration counseling when they seek for it.
Thank you, Mr. Dele. Ms. Gail, I'm going to start this next question with you. Was there any event or situation in your life, that made you decide being a judge could change the world. And if there was any event or situation that really inspired you to do so, please share us what that experience was.
Well, I was inspired to become an attorney by growing up during the civil rights movement in Birmingham, Alabama. I was a schoolmate with one of the young ladies that was killed in the 16th Street bombing. And from that experience and the other experiences in Birmingham growing up, I decided I wanted to be an attorney to assist in changing the world, to make it a fairer place. And for the longest, that has been through private practice. But I feel that becoming a judge is the next step in that desire to assist the community.
Thank you. Mr. Dele, we're going to come to you. Same question. Was there any event or situation in your life that made you decide being a judge could change the world? If so, please share that story with us.
Well, actually, my first love was to be a priest. But somehow it didn't work out. So I decided to be an attorney because I see that people do need an attorney. An attorney sometimes can be just like a priest because you carry the burden of people. So I believe that helping people out is one way of reaching the community. And I believe that if I become an attorney, I can help a whole lot of people, especially those who do not have the money or who cannot afford attorney. For me, it's more of a community outreach than practicing law itself for gain. The monetary part of it is not my primary motive. My primary motive is to help those who need those kind of things and to make sure that justice is served to those who really deserve justice, not because they lack money to get it.
Thank you. And Mr. Adam, to round us out, can you share with us any event or situation in your life that made you decide being a judge could potentially change the world? And please share that story with us.
Sure. So I remember in the span of a week, I had two different conversations, one with a mother of a victim crime, and a person who had just been released from jail, and two completely different situations. But the mother described the court process as it felt like reliving the funeral all over again. And then you had the person who had just been released from jail on a completely separate case who said that it was years of his life that had been wasted, and basically discussed the issues that he had with getting back plugged in with work, getting plugged back in with his family, and all the issues that stemmed from it. And so you start to realize that as a judge, you can really have an impact, not just on the situations that come into court, but really on a person's life. And it's really being able to discern who are the violent offenders, who are the repeat offenders, and who are the people that really deserve to be worked with.
Thank you. Mr. Dele, we're going to start this next question with you. Many professionals take on an obligation to continue their education, even as they practice in their field, and this includes lawyers. As you seek to become judge, how have you demonstrated a commitment to continued learning, and particularly share with us outside the sphere of the CLE requirements that we are obligated and required to complete?
Well, for me, really, I believe in education. I think education is very important, not only in your field as a lawyer. What I believe is that no knowledge is a loss. If any knowledge gain is good for you. That's why in my family we make it very important. We make it very clear that education is the paramount in everything you do. I've always encouraged my clients really to. Most of whom who didn't finish high school to get GED. I've encouraged a lot of my clients to take up professions, not just going to work for other companies. I don't want to mention any companies, but it's very paramount for them to either be a hairstylist or be a nurse or be a doctor. Just choose any profession you want to do in life. So, and for me, if God permits me, I do want to get my PhD in mass communication down the road. So education plays a very vital part in my life. In any aspect of my life, education is paramount.
Thank you. Ms. Gale, same question for you. How have you, as you seek to become judge, how have you demonstrated a commitment to continuing your learning?
I think that learning is a daily desire. You need to try to learn something new every day, and I try to do that. I participate with a number of organizations. The NAACP Legal Defense Fund, they have programs and that I would attend to try to learn the latest approaches to civil litigation, civil rights litigation. I believe that you can always learn something if you go to those continuing education type programs. And I think that also Delta Sigma Theta, they're always have seminars. And so I try to go to all of those and to try to increase my knowledge in areas outside of just the law.
Thank you. Mr. Adam, same question for you. How have you, as you seek to become a judge, how have you demonstrated a commitment to continuing your learning?
I try to do it on 2 tracks. One is a learning track. One is a getting comfortable with having uncomfortable conversations track. So as an attorney, we're required to have 12.5 hours of CLE every year. So that's a part of it. But then I've tried to go on the learning track. I've been a part of the National Computer Forensics Institute. And that's an organization sponsored through the federal government that has information about computer crimes and things like that. I've also worked with having tough conversations. And so I've been a part of social justice programs with the Urban League, with the East Baton Rouge Public Defender's Office, with the National Black Prosecutors Association, and through different fraternities, sorority, and church events.
Thank you, Mr. Adam. And we're actually going to stick with you for this next question to start it off. Louisiana is unique in how it funds its judicial system. The quote unquote user pay system has been declared unsustainable and by all parties. What do you suggest is the way forward to change this model of funding our judicial system?
I think a big part of it is putting the resources where they need to be. And so by filtering through the number of cases that are in the court system, trying to get some of the nonviolent and some of the lower level cases out of the court system so that a lot of that energy and focus can be put on the violent offenders and repeat offenders and things that really require the court's attention. And so where sign out bonds are appropriate, I'm open to it. Where ROR bonds are appropriate, I'm open to it. But I think the bigger thing is being able to take that same focus and energy and put that towards the violent offenders. And it really goes back to looking at the root of the case, looking at the facts of the case, hearing the different sides, and making sure that when you address a situation that you have as much information as possible going into it.
Mr. Adam, I'm going to stick with you. This question is specifically focused on funding our criminal legal system. And the current model of funding our criminal legal system is often on the backs of the people who are coming through the system. This has been recognized as unconstitutional in 2 different cases. One was a case called Kane. One was a case called Calise. They were both out of the city of New Orleans, recognizing the unconstitutionality of relying on people coming through the criminal legal system and essentially paying for it. In the Kane Calise, it recognized that it was a financial conflict of interest for judges to set the fines and fees associated with the case, knowing that that funding was coming back to the judicial system. And on the Calise case, it was found to be a financial conflict of interest for a particular percentage of the bail fee to go towards the judicial expense fund for the court as well. So specifically recognizing that this model of funding on the backs of the people who are coming through the system has been recognized as unconstitutional by the Eastern District of Louisiana. What is your proposal in terms of a different way in which we could be funding our justice system that does not rely on the individuals coming through it paying for it?
I think a huge part of it can be hopefully looking at state and federal funding wherever possible. I think part of it is looking at grants wherever possible. I think if there were specialty courts that didn't require people to have to put money towards being a part of the program, I don't agree with the system riding the backs of those who have to come through the system. But I think it also requires a serious talk about how do we fund it and how do we get there. And so I guess the first answer is just figuring out a different place for funding so that it's not falling on the people that are disproportionately impacted by having to come through the system.
Thank you. Mr. Dele, I'm going to come to you. Same question. Louisiana is unique in how it funds its judicial system. The quote unquote user pay system has been declared unsustainable by all parties. What do you suggest is the way forward to change this model of funding?
Well, we all know that funding the judicial system has become a hot topic. My suggestion would have been that even though it's difficult for the government itself to sponsor the judicial system all by itself, I think the judicial system should have another alternative. We know it's difficult not to levy on those people who come to the court, especially those who use the courtroom or by filing cases. I think the judicial system can fund itself through the filing of records and investing some of the money they have themselves, not relying on penal money to fund itself. But one way or the other, we need to create another system and another way of funding the judicial system apart from the penalties.
Thank you, Ms. Gale. Same question. Louisiana is unique in how it funds its judicial system. The quote unquote user pay system has been declared unsustainable by all parties. What do you suggest is the way forward to change this model of funding?
Well, I would suggest that the legislature appropriate the funds necessary to carry out the system. I think they are the ones who have set it up where it is a user pay situation. So I think that the legislature should change that as a basis in as far as it places a burden on those who have been accused of a crime to have to pay before they're even convicted of a crime. So I know that it has to go through the legislature basically in order to change, but I think that that can be done. And if we are unique in the way that we manage our situation, then we ought to be able to search other judicial places and states and come up with a remedy that they use.
Thank you, Ms. Gale. And I'm going to stick with you for the start of this next question. The 19th JDC partners with a variety of quote unquote shadow organizations that provide services such as GPS, release monitoring, etc. There's no public transparency or accountability regarding these organizations. Do you believe it is time for transparency to be introduced? And please tell us why you've come to the decision that you're sharing with us today.
Well, I'm in favor of transparency in all matters that relate to the government. So if something is going on with the government, then the citizens have a right to know. And this is not a new position or anything on my part. I've always believed that if the citizens are paying for it or it is affecting the citizens, and if the state is behind it, then certainly it should be open to the extent that it does not violate a particular individual or an accused right of privacy. Then I think that it should be open to the public to know what is going on and why.
Thank you, Mr. Dele. Same question. The 19th JDC partners with a variety of shadow organizations that provide services such as GPS monitoring, electronic monitoring, etc. There currently is no public transparency or accountability regarding these organizations. And do you believe it is time for transparency to be introduced? And if so, why?
Well, I think in every activity the court engages in, there should be transparency. Because if there's no transparency, the public will lose the trust they have in the court. The court has to be transparent in everything it does. So if you have all these GPS and monitoring companies that are quote unquote helping the court, because we know that the probation and parole division alone cannot handle all these alleged or criminals. So if you have all these public GPS and tracking people who are supposed to be helping the courtroom, then the public should be transparent to the public, so the public can know what they do, the public can know their activities, the public can know the regulations concerning them, so that in case these entities do things that they're not supposed to do to these fellows, they will be able to find a way to remedy this situation. Yes, I believe that there should be transparency.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Same question. The 19th JDC partners with a variety of quote unquote shadow organizations that provide services such as GPS, electronic monitoring, etc. There's no public transparency or accountability regarding these organizations. And do you believe it is time for transparency? And if so, why?
So part of my platform was commitment, and one of the words that I use in there is transparency. And part of people being able to trust the process is being able to understand every aspect of the court system, including the shadow tracking and the court services that are there. Now, I think that transparency is important to the extent that it can be done while maintaining public safety. So I know from working at the DA's office that there are conversations that happen between the court system and those who are monitoring that include victim information, that include things that may not be accessible to the public. But in terms of the fees that go along with the GPS tracking and with the bonds, I absolutely believe that that should be transparent information and things that anybody who's following the case or anyone who's a part of the public should have access to as a part of the court process.
Thank you, Mr. Adam. Mr. Dele, this next question will start with you. The East Baton Rouge Parish Metro Council just passed a homeless ordinance, and the legislature has enacted a reporting system for sex offenders that criminalizes poor people who are unable to pay the associated fees. Please share how you think these quality of life type of legislative mandates impact the efficiency of the court.
Well, first let me talk about the homeless ones. We know that they are among us, and there's not too much we can do concerning the homeless, but try to help them. I think that the government should look into the situation of the homeless and see how and they can help the homeless. If you have businesses nowadays, they say the number one people who broke into businesses or buildings are the homeless because they're looking for somewhere to sleep. So the government should participate in finding a solution to that fact. And on the other hand, concerning the money levied against the sexual offenders, it's a bittersweet situation. We don't want the public to fund the activities of those who commit those crimes, but we should find another way of making those who commit those crimes to pay for it, just like they do in the federal court. Once they put you on probation, you have to get a job, and from your job, you pay your home fees. So I think we should look into that kind of situation.
And just sticking with you for another 20 seconds or so, can you share how you think this type of legislation impacts the efficiency of the court?
Well, to me, it impacts the efficiency of the law in that most of the time, these people cannot afford all these fees. And what happens? They resort to coming back to jail. And what do? The public spend more money trying to house these people, feed them, and take care of them. So that's one of the major impacts that fee is will cost. That's why I stated earlier about in the federal system, you commit those crimes and they give you those fines and you're supposed to pay those fines. Once you finish your time in the prison, they put you on probation and you must get a job, and from that job you start paying your dues. I think that's the kind of system I think the state should copy.
Thank you. Next, I'll go to Mr. Adam. The East Baton Rouge Parish Metro Council recently passed a homeless ordinance. The legislature has enacted a reporting system for sex offenders that criminalizes poor people who are unable to pay the associated fees. Please share how you think these quality of life type of legislative mandates impact the efficiency of the court.
So I started earlier by saying that you can't set expectations without giving the tools, the resources, the opportunities that are needed in order to fix a problem. And so here you have homelessness and you have the sex offenders, and you have a situation where you criminalize it, but it just becomes a revolving door. If the person can't pay the fines and the fees, we should never be in a position to where poverty is criminalized. But I think the bigger thing is you have to look at if that's an inefficient system, how do we make it more efficient? And as a judge, my job is just to apply the law, to be fair and impartial when I apply the law. But if I can work with other people in order to change the outcome of the case, that's my goal, is to work with others to make sure that we're not just continuing the revolving door, but that we find ways to continue to make the person better leaving the system.
Thank you, Mr. Adam. Ms. Gale, same question for you. The East Baton Rouge Parish Metro Council just passed a homeless ordinance, and the legislature has enacted a reporting system for sex offenders that criminalizes poor people who are unable to pay the fees. Please share how you think these quality of life type of legislative mandates impact the efficiency of the court.
Well, if the question is, and I think the question is, how does it affect the efficiency of the court? It certainly puts into play other certain individuals who may not have to have court dates if we weren't requiring them to pay fees, or the homeless to come in and be criminalized for not being able to afford a place to stay. So I think it does affect the system because we can't put our time into dealing with the serious offenses if the only violations are I don't have the money to pay for the fees that are set against me. So there should be something done to assist those who are unable to pay, as far as sex offenders are concerned. And as far as the homeless are concerned, I don't think that the system should be tied up as far as dealing with those individuals.
Thanks, Ms. Gale. I'm going to stick with you for a quick follow-up question, and I'll ask the same follow-up question for everybody. And I'll give you a hypothetical. You're on the bench and a person is in front of you who is in custody, who has been arrested on a warrant for failing to pay a particular fine or fee. You know that this person was previously represented by a public defender. They are currently unemployed and they are having and experiencing housing instability. If this person is presented in front of you and the public defender asks you to waive all remaining fines and fees, would you grant or deny that request? And I'll start with you, Ms. Gale.
Okay. So I don't believe that we're able to answer, strictly hypotheticals as to what I would do in that case. But what I can tell you, what I would look at is some of the things that you've said. If they are unable to, because of a financial problem, they're for some reason they're unemployed and cannot work, that's something that can be taken into consideration. And I believe that the statutes are now mandating that we take certain of those things into count when we make a ruling. So I don't think someone should be punished if they sincerely say they've gotten sick or something to that effect and they can't pay the fine or they can't pay the court costs. So I think all that can be taken into consideration, and I don't think we ought to spend more money locking them up and taking care of them when they're going to get right back out and not be able to pay it again.
Thanks, Ms. Gale. Mr. Adam, coming to you, same hypothetical question. You're sitting on the bench, a person who has previously been represented by a public defender. Person is in custody in front of your court, in front of your bench, and they've been arrested on failure to pay fines and fees. Would you consider waiving the remaining fines and fees if the public defender requested it?
Assuming these are court fines and fees, court fines and fees?
Yes, court fines and fees.
I don't believe that I can commit to an answer on that. That's one of those looking at the totality of the situation and making sure that I understand all the facts associated with it. I do believe that I would do everything in my power to try to help out the situation where I can. I don't know if I can give a blanket answer to yes, waiving every situation that comes before the court like that. But my thought would be working with whoever was in the court system and whoever was representing that individual to see if there are solutions that that we could do to try to streamline the situation some.
Thank you, Mr. Adam. Mr. Dele, same question for you. In this hypothetical situation, a person is in front of you and you're on the bench, and they've been represented by a public defender in the past and are currently represented by a public defender. They've been arrested on a capias or on a warrant for failure to pay fines and fees, or specifically court fines and fees. If the public defender made a request to waive the remaining fines and fees, would you consider that request?
Well, since this is purely hypothetical, which I did not commit nor say this is what I will do, because every case has a different circumstances. The fact of cases control those cases themselves. But being in this position, I've represented plenty clients like those. So I can understand where your question is coming from. The first thing is that if that client is still in jail, I will consider, depending on what her or his record is saying, to get that person out of jail. And secondly, if those fees cannot be waived, there's also what we call alternative sentencing. You have community service. You can allow that person to pay off that fee by doing community service. But if that person, since it's a non-violent crime, that's been my mantra all this time. Non-violent offenders should be given a second opportunity. I may, depending on the circumstances, allow that person to pay by installment. And if you cannot pay by installment, then you do community service. Those are the kind of alternative sentencing we should consider.
Thank you, Mr. Dele. Mr. Adam, coming to you for this next question to start us off. The current configuration of the Public Defender's Office has been under scrutiny, including by sitting members of the 19th JDC. What is your opinion regarding the challenges of the Public Defender's Office and also the role of the court in weighing on these issues publicly?
Working with the district attorney's office, I've had an opportunity to hear and see the impact that the public defenders have in the courtroom. And because it's still an ongoing issue, I don't know if I can fully comment on it, but I think that it goes back to the individuals that need representation. And so as a part of making the court system more efficient, a lot of the offenders that come into court, or a lot of the people that are accused offenders of coming into court, don't have the means to hire private counsel, which means that the public defender's office becomes a one-stop shop for a lot of the issues that we see coming through the court. And I believe that it does require a balance. It does require conversations with the individuals in charge, just to make sure that anything that can be done to try to continue to make the court system efficient and protect the rights of those that are incarcerated should be done.
Thank you, Ms. Gale. Coming to you for your response. The current configuration of the Public Defender's Office has been under scrutiny, including by sitting members of the 19th JDC. What is your opinion regarding the challenges of the Public Defender's Office and also the role of the court in weighing in on these issues publicly?
Well, I have served as I've been employed by the Public Defender's Office when I first started practicing I sat as a member of the public defender board when they were the board was just for the 19th JDC before it became a statewide board. And I also had contracts with the public defender's office to do conflict work. And I am aware that the challenges are largely financial. The district attorney's office has receives money from state and I believe local officials, and the money that goes to the public defender's office is far insufficient for the amount of clients that we have coming through the court system. So the financial situation is really always a problem as far as the public defender's office, and the people who work hard there. There are many dedicated ones who work hard in the public defender's office, but the finances are just insufficient.
Thanks, Ms. Gale. Mr. Dele, same question. The current configuration of the public defender's office has been under scrutiny, including by sitting members of the 19th JDC. What is your opinion regarding the challenges of the public defender's office and also the role of the court in weighing in on these issues publicly?
Well, you have a two-tiered question. First of all, I would say, out of experience, personal experience, I know I've done hundreds of cases for the public defendant during my private practice, which I couldn't bill them for. Even when I billed them, they couldn't pay it. And I let it go because I've done many cases for them. I know the challenges they face because they are overworked. Number one, I think the number of clients they have are too many. For me, I've seen that personally. And also, I've had the opportunity to be a member of the board of the public defendant when it was under the 19th JDC for a number of years. And I saw quite all right how they were fighting to get funding. Funding for the public defender was very, very minimal. And I believe that the court can do more by helping the public defenders out, by making some lawyers do some pro bono work. There's nothing wrong with that. They won't die. The court can give some lawyers some pro bono work to help the public defender's office from all this backlog they have. I think funding, and we have so many good lawyers in the public defender's office, but they are just being overworked, period.
Thank you. Ms. Gale, I'm going to start with you for this next question. Domestic violence is at a crisis level in East Baton Rouge Parish, as well as the state. Immigrant rights organizations have pointed out that 287G agreement has a chilling effect on the immigrant population seeking help from the courts on domestic violence. How would you address this issue?
Okay. You're speaking of the fact that they may be the immigrant population may be afraid to come in and complain about domestic violence for fear that they'll be deported. Is that what you have reference to?
Yeah, so there might be some immigration consequences with consulting authorities for domestic violence cases.
Right. That certainly would seem to be a problem. Of course, that's something that would have to be dealt with by the legislature because the immigration status is strictly a federal decision, and so therefore the state court, I can understand why it would be a problem as far as someone being afraid to bring a complaint because they feel that they may, if their status is not legitimate, or if there's some issue as to whether or not they have a legitimate status, they may not want to bring the complaint. But that is something that I think the federal court would have to deal with. And but domestic violence is certainly a problem in the state, and it's something that a holistic approach needs to be approached for even immigrants and the citizens, ordinary citizens of Baton Rouge.
Mr. Dele, coming to you, same question. Domestic violence is at crisis levels in East Baton Rouge Parish, as well as the state. Immigrant rights organizations have pointed out that the 287G agreement has a chilling effect on the immigrant population seeking help from the courts on domestic violence issues. How would you address this issue?
Well, practically, I agree with you that domestic violence has gotten way out of hand in East Baton Rouge Parish. I've represented a lot of the victims and as well as um, um, the defendants who committed those crimes, and really it does have a chilling effect on the immigrant population. I deal a lot in immigration law. And I've seen that most of these immigrants, if they married to individuals who are national of this country, sometimes when they want to get over them, you can do anything to them. You can beat them, you can abuse them, but they'll be too scared to go out and report to the police because they know that their immigration status will come into effect. And once that come into effect, immigration will come in and arrest them. So instead of them languishing in jail, they will take all this abuse. It does have a chilling effect, and I think that they need to revisit that rules and amend it accordingly.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Same question. Domestic violence is at crisis levels in East Baton Rouge Parish as well as the state. Immigrant rights organizations have pointed out that the 287G agreement has a chilling effect on the immigrant population seeking help from the courts on domestic violence issues. How would you address this chilling effect?
I think as a state level judge, the hard part is controlling what I can control. And I know that being on the state level, to ignore the impact that has on people being able to report what they're seeing in the community is tough. It really is. And I think part of it is being able to find organizations that may be able to do some behind the scenes work to try to help where they can. I know Iris has run into this issue a lot, especially with the increase in domestic violence, especially within different communities. I know that the idea of an ICE hold can impact the entire efficiency of the case. And so I think anything that can be done to try to make that situation better should be done. But I believe that it's a federal issue, and as a state level judge, it's controlling the things that are within the courtroom.
Mr. Adam, I'm going to stick with you for this last question before we get to closing statements. For a mere 8 weeks pre-pandemic, the 19th JDC used a 72-hour arraignment system to end the excessive time for pretrial detainees to get their cases before the court. Post-pandemic, the backlog in the court is steadily going up. What is your position on the 72-hour arraignment model, and what, if any, suggestions do you have for addressing the backlog?
I think looking at the legislation that's been put in place is a big part of it. I remember the 72-hour turnaround, and I believe that from addressing the incarceration issue, that it was a big push, and it was a really good program. But the biggest thing is that it needs to be sustainable. It needs to be something that's efficient, and I think it's getting all members involved with making that program successful. And so I like the idea of the 72-hour arraignment model, and we saw some progress with it. And I think the bigger thing now is working with the different organizations to make sure that it's not just an idea, but that it's a sustainable idea for the future.
Thank you, Ms. Gale. Same question. For a mere 8 weeks pre-pandemic, the 19th JDC used a 72-hour arraignment system to end the excessive time for pretrial detainees to get their cases before the court. Post-pandemic, the backlog in the court is steadily going up. What is your position on the 72-hour arraignment model, and what, if any, suggestions do you have for addressing the backlog?
Well, as it comes to addressing the backlog, I feel that my experience in the court system could certainly help in that area and on the in the division that I would take over if I'm elected. As far as the 72-hour arraignment, I remember it and participated in it. It had some flaws, which I think they knew from the beginning that they would have to try to work out. I have not heard what they're doing to try to bring it back into effect. I think that what they, if they're dealing with serious charges, then the 72 hours arraignment model should be kept in effect. And I think that as far as nonviolent offenders, they don't need to hold them in jail for them to decide whether or not they've been arraigned. So that would sort of clear up some of the backlog if everybody wasn't sitting around waiting to be arraigned on nonviolent offenses.
Thanks, Ms. Gale. Mr. Dele, same question. For a mere 8 weeks pre-pandemic, the 19th JDC used a 72-hour arraignment system to end the excessive time for pretrial detainees to get their cases before the court. Post-pandemic, the backlog in the court is steadily going up. What is your position on the 72-hour arraignment model, and what, if any, suggestions do you have for addressing the backlog?
Number one, my view on the 72-hour arraignment model is that I like it, because it allows people not to be held unnecessarily in jail, especially the non-violent offender. That has been my mantra from the day one of my campaign, that if I'm elected judge, all those non-violent offenders that we plug our jailhouse with, that we should do away with them. But if they become repeat offenders, then we can take serious and drastic actions against them. But all the violent offenders, we can keep them in there. But all those non-violent offenders, like example, you didn't pay your ticket, or you have a warrant for your ticket, they should allow them to go. My suggestion really would be that, when a judge is on duty, you should that judge should continue handling those 72 hours model and shouldn't deviate from that 72-hour model. And and secondly, to make sure that those non-violent offenders are not kept in jail. We know this maybe because of some problems in the courthouse, but yet the non-violent offenders, if we get them out, we should be able to do the 72 hours model.
Thank you all for answering these questions that have been prepared by our partners. We are now coming into the portion of the program where you each will be given 1 minute to share your closing statements. We will begin with Ms. Gale, and then Mr. Dele, and then Mr. Adam. Ms. Gale, please share with us your closing statements to the audience as you see fit. Thank you.
First of all, I would like to thank the partners who have given us this opportunity to speak to them and to the public. My name is Gail Horn-Ray, and I am number 60 on the ballot. I am not a politician, but I've always considered myself to be a freedom fighter. I will fight to ensure that law-abiding citizens feel free to walk the streets and to live in their homes. And I also will fight to make sure that everyone that comes before the court are treated fairly, regardless to their race, sex, their station in life. I feel I have the temperament to be judge. I have the experience to be a judge. And I would always be fair to everyone that came before the court and treat them with the dignity that I feel every human being is entitled to. And so I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Gale. Mr. Dele, 1 minute for your closing remarks.
Well, let me use this opportunity to thank all the producers and all those who came together to put this show together. And also let me thank the public and those who tune in to listen to this program. Thank you very much. But if I'm elected judge, my message hasn't changed, and it will not change. I've told the public from day one that I will allow the Holy Spirit to direct me in my dealings, because that's the only one that can help me out. And then number two, also, if elected, like I told them, I will make sure I uphold the law. Look, judges change life every day. That's what we're there to do, to change lives. The principle of criminal law is not for punishment, it's to rehabilitate offenders, except if you're one of those violent offenders, which I believe we should deal seriously with. I'm number 59 on your ballot, and I request for your vote because I will be fair and impartial.
Thank you, Mr. Dele. Mr. Adam, 1 minute for your closing remarks.
Same as everyone else has already said, I want to thank the organizers and all the organizations that were a part of putting this together. I'm grateful for the opportunity. My name is Adam Quintua, number 61 on the ballot. And one of the things I just want to point out is I appreciate a lot of the questions that came up tonight, because when I look at the bail bond questions, the user pay questions, homelessness, the sexual offender questions, the big thing that I pulled from that is that a lot of those are still ongoing conversations and things that still need to be figured out. And all I can do is lean back on what I started with, which is accountability, commitment, community. And a lot of that goes to, number one, trusting that I can hold people accountable when necessary. And at the same time, that I'm willing to invest in the infrastructure necessary to make sure that that culture stays in place, making a person better leaving than they were when they came in. My commitment to efficiency and transparency, and making sure that it's a streamlined process, and the community working with different organizations that can address the same issues that we talked about tonight. So thank y'all for this opportunity. Number 61, Adam Quintua. Thank you.
Thank you to all of our candidates for participating in tonight's conversation. And a big thanks to our sponsoring organization for putting together those questions. Please feel to share this video for folks who may not have been able to tune in live. And of course, make sure that you go out and vote. I will also share the personal privilege that married and wedded to the right to vote and the importance of voting is also jury service. And I like to remind people that participating in our criminal legal system through the jury box is a very, very important matter, and it's a way for folks in our community to have access to power that hasn't always been given to everybody in the state. All elections are really important, and each election is very vital to influencing the future of our state, the future of our country, and the future of our lives. As you heard from the candidates this evening, there are many issues that remain to be worked on within our criminal legal system. So make sure that you utilize your right to vote and that you show up to the ballot on November 8th. And remember that early voting is between October 25th and November 2nd. So in the event that you can't vote on November 8th, you do have about a week or so to early vote. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, and be well.